Commander Zethrak stood on the bridge of his massive warship, watching Earth grow larger through the viewport. The blue-green planet looked peaceful, almost boring compared to the industrial worlds of the Galactic Coalition. His forearms crossed as he studied the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses. "This will be easier than conquering a mining colony," he told his officers. The bridge crew of various alien species nodded in agreement. Earth had no space fleet, no orbital defense platforms, and their technology seemed centuries behind galactic standards. The Coalition had been expanding across the galaxy for thousands of years. They had conquered over 10,000 worlds, each one adding to their massive military machine. Earth was just another primitive world that would fall within days, maybe hours. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," reported Communications Officer Veltar, her tentacles dancing across the control panel. "Put it through," Zethrak commanded. A human face appeared on the screen. The man looked old with gray hair and tired eyes. He wore a simple military uniform with strange markings. "I am General Harrison of Earth's United Defense Command," the human said. "We know why you're here. We formally surrender to the Galactic Coalition." Zethrak's mandibles clicked in amusement. This was even easier than expected. Most worlds at least tried to fight before surrendering. "Wise choice, human," Zethrak replied. "Prepare your planet for occupation. We will begin landing our forces immediately." "We understand," General Harrison said. "However, we request that your forces avoid certain areas of our planet. Our wildlands are dangerous even for us. Many contain hostile wildlife and treacherous terrain." The Coalition officers laughed. Zethrak himself found it amusing that these primitive humans thought their planet held any real dangers for advanced galactic forces. "Your concerns are noted but unnecessary," Zethrak said. "Our forces are equipped to handle any environment. We will land wherever we choose." General Harrison's expression didn't change.
"Very well."
"We've transmitted coordinates of our major cities and military bases. Our forces will not resist." The transmission ended. Zethrak turned to his tactical officer, a reptilian Sauros named Crixton. "Begin the invasion. Deploy forces to all major population centers and strategic locations. Also, I want significant forces in these wildland areas," the human mentioned. "If there are resources hidden there, we'll find them." Within hours, Coalition dropships filled Earth's skies. Massive troop transports descended on cities around the globe. The humans kept their word and offered no resistance. Military bases were occupied without a single shot fired. It seemed like the easiest conquest in Coalition history. The first wildland deployment was in what humans called the Amazon rainforest. 3 full divisions of Coalition troops, over 30,000 soldiers from various species, landed in the dense jungle. General Mordak, a veteran commander from the warrior race of Krillians, led the operation. "Spread out and establish a perimeter," Mordak ordered as his troops disembarked from the dropships. "This is a routine occupation mission." The jungle was thick and humid, but Coalition environmental suits handled the conditions easily. Their advanced sensors could detect life forms for kilometers. Their weapons could level trees, and their armor could stop most projectiles. What could possibly threaten them? As the forces spread through the jungle, they noticed something odd. The local wildlife seemed unusually quiet. Their sensors detected numerous life forms, but nothing approached their positions. Even stranger, they found evidence of human presence throughout the forest. Not primitive tribal camps, but sophisticated camouflaged positions. "Sir," reported Captain Vexus, "we're finding what appear to be human military installations throughout this sector. They're incredibly well hidden." Mordak examined the reports. The humans had built an extensive network of concealed bases throughout the jungle, but they all appeared abandoned. Where did they go? He wondered aloud. The answer came at sunset on their first day. The attacks began as whispers in the wind. Coalition soldiers simply vanished from their positions. No weapons fire, no explosions, no distress calls. One moment they were there, the next they were gone. "Squad 7, report," Mordak commanded into his communicator. Silence. "Squad 7, respond immediately." Still nothing. When morning came, Mordak's forces had lost over 300 soldiers. They found no bodies, no signs of struggle, no evidence of what had happened. It was as if the jungle had simply swallowed them. Similar reports came from other wildland deployments around the globe. Forces in Earth's African savannas, North American forests, Asian mountains, and Australian outback all reported mysterious losses. Soldiers disappeared without trace. Equipment malfunctioned in impossible ways, and strange sounds echoed through the wilderness at night. Back on his command ship, Zethrak studied the reports with growing concern. In 70 years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The humans in the cities remained completely cooperative, but something was hunting his forces in the wild places. Increase patrols and maintain constant communication, he ordered. Deploy sensor drones throughout all wildland areas. Whatever is doing this, we'll find it. But the disappearances continued. By the end of the first week, the coalition had lost nearly 2,000 soldiers across all wildland deployments. Morale among the remaining forces began to crack. These were hardened veterans who had conquered countless worlds, but they had never faced an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't track, and couldn't fight. The breaking point came when an entire company of elite Vorthon shock troops vanished in the span of 6 hours. These were some of the most feared warriors in the galaxy, equipped with the most advanced weapons and armor. Yet they disappeared as completely as if they had never existed. Zethrak called an emergency meeting of his senior staff. "I want explanations," he demanded. "How are we losing thousands of soldiers to a primitive world that surrendered without firing a shot?" Intelligence Officer Nixara, a tall insectoid creature, spoke first. "Sir, we've analyzed all available data. There's no evidence of advanced human technology being used against us. No energy weapon signatures, no spacecraft, no orbital bombardments. Then what's killing our soldiers?" Zethrak snapped. "We don't know, sir. Whatever is happening appears to be concentrated entirely in Earth's natural environments. Urban and agricultural areas show no hostile activity." Zethrak's 4 hands clenched into fists. The mighty Galactic Coalition, conqueror of 10,000 worlds, was being made to look foolish by a single primitive planet. Worse, they didn't even understand how it was happening. "Double our forces in all wildland areas," he commanded. "If there's something hiding in those jungles and forests, we'll find it and destroy it." But deep in Earth's wildlands, the real defenders of humanity were just getting started. Deep in the Amazon rainforest, Master Sergeant Maria Santos crouched motionless in the canopy, 40 feet above the jungle floor. Her body was painted with natural camouflage that made her nearly invisible among the leaves and shadows. She had been in this position for 6 hours, watching a coalition patrol move through the forest below. The aliens thought they were hunters, but they moved through the jungle like tourists. Their heavy boots crashed through undergrowth, their equipment beeped and hummed, and they talked constantly through their communication systems. Maria could track them from kilometers away just by the noise they made. She touched her throat microphone and whispered, "Ghost leader to all units. Packages in position. Confirm ready status." Voices whispered back through her earpiece. "Ghost 2 ready? Ghost 3 ready." The confirmations continued from 12 different positions around the alien patrol. Maria's team was part of Earth's most secret military unit, officially known as Environmental Defense Specialists, but they called themselves the Jungle Ghosts. When the aliens first arrived, most of humanity had indeed surrendered as promised, but Earth's military leaders had spent decades preparing for this day. They knew that conventional forces could never match galactic technology, so they had created something else entirely. Deep in Earth's wildest places, they had trained soldiers who could fight like the land itself. Maria and her team had spent 15 years living in the Amazon. They knew every tree, every stream, every animal path. The jungle wasn't their enemy to be conquered. It was their partner in war. They moved through it like ghosts, struck like lightning, and vanished like morning mist. "Execute," Maria whispered. The attack began with nature itself. Ghost 4 had spent hours preparing a deadfall trap using fallen trees and vines. As the alien patrol passed beneath a massive cecropia tree, he triggered the release. 2 tons of wood and rock crashed down, crushing 3 coalition soldiers instantly. The surviving aliens raised their weapons, scanning for threats, but the jungle had already swallowed their attackers. Maria dropped silently from the canopy behind their formation. Her knife found the gap between one alien's helmet and body armor before he even knew she was there. Ghost 2 and Ghost 3 emerged from hidden positions like deadly flowers blooming from the earth. Their crossbows were silent and accurate, dropping 2 more soldiers before the aliens could react. The remaining troops fired wildly into the jungle, their energy weapons burning holes in trees and setting undergrowth ablaze. But the ghosts were already gone, melted back into their green world like they had never existed. "Spread out. Find them!" shouted the alien squad leader in his own language, but Maria understood every word. Earth's forces had been studying galactic languages for decades. The aliens did spread out, which was exactly what Maria wanted. Separated soldiers were easier targets. Ghost 5 had prepared a pit trap covered with branches and leaves. An 8-foot-tall Sauros warrior fell into the concealed hole and found himself face to face with sharpened bamboo stakes. Ghost 6 used the jungle's own inhabitants as weapons. He had trained the local army ants to respond to certain chemical signals. When he released the pheromone marker, thousands of aggressive insects swarmed over 2 coalition soldiers. Their advanced armor protected them from energy weapons but couldn't keep out creatures smaller than a grain of rice. One by one, the alien patrol was reduced. Each death was silent, swift, and seemingly impossible. The remaining soldiers began to panic, firing at shadows and sounds that meant nothing. They were fighting an entire ecosystem that had turned against them. The last alien survivor was a Krillian warrior, supposedly one of the fiercest fighters in the galaxy. He stood in a small clearing, weapon ready, spinning in circles as he tried to watch every direction at once. Maria appeared directly in front of him, rising from what he had thought was a fallen log covered in moss. She moved with fluid grace, avoiding his energy blast and driving her blade between the plates of his armor. The warrior fell without a sound. "Ghost leader to base," Maria reported. "Package delivered. No survivors, no witnesses." "Confirmed, Ghost leader," came the reply from General Harrison himself. "Excellent work. Prepare for Phase 2. Phase 2 involves something the aliens weren't expecting. Instead of just eliminating their forces, the ghosts began psychological warfare. They left messages at attack sites written in galactic standard language. The jungle remembers. Earth defends herself. You are not welcome here. They started taking prisoners. But these soldiers were never seen again. The coalition forces didn't know that deep in the jungle, in caverns hidden beneath root systems older than civilization, these captives were being interrogated by Earth's finest intelligence specialists. From these prisoners, Earth learned about coalition military structure, technology, and most importantly, their weaknesses. The aliens were powerful, but they were used to fighting in space or on barren worlds. They had no experience with guerrilla warfare in hostile natural environments. The coalition responded by sending in more troops and heavier equipment. Massive hovering tanks crushed through the forest, supported by aerial drones and heavily armed soldiers. But the jungle adapted to each new threat. When the hover tanks came, ghost teams used cables and nets to trap them in the canopy. When the drones appeared, trained birds carried small explosive devices that destroyed the aircraft like flying bombs. When the soldiers wore heavier armor, the ghosts used the jungle's natural poisons and diseases as weapons. Master Sergeant Carlos Reyes, leader of another ghost team operating in the Congo Basin, developed a particularly effective tactic. His team bred and trained local killer bees to attack anything that emitted specific electromagnetic frequencies. Coalition equipment was full of such emissions. The result was swarms of angry insects that could penetrate any armor gap and drive enemy soldiers mad with pain. In the Amazon, Sergeant Kim Lu discovered that certain tree saps could eat through alien metal when properly prepared. Her team began coating their weapons with these natural acids, turning simple arrows and spears into armor-piercing instruments of war. The coalition's losses mounted daily. Entire companies vanished without trace. Supply convoys were destroyed before they could reach their destinations. Communication towers were sabotaged by soldiers who could climb like monkeys and disappear like smoke. Back on his command ship, Commander Zethrak stared at reports that made no logical sense. His forces were being systematically destroyed by an enemy that officially didn't exist. The humans in the cities continued to cooperate fully, providing supplies and information as requested. Yet something was killing his soldiers in numbers that threatened the entire occupation. "Sir," reported Intelligence Officer Nixera, "we've intercepted some human communications from the affected areas. They're calling whatever is attacking us ghost soldiers or jungle spirits." Zethrak's mandibles clicked in frustration. Ghosts and spirits don't kill soldiers with advanced weapons. There's a logical explanation for this. Yes, sir, but we can't find it. Our sensors detect no organized military units in these areas. No large weapons, no vehicles, no command structures. Yet we continue to lose forces at an alarming rate. What the coalition didn't understand was that they were fighting Earth itself. These weren't conventional soldiers hiding in the jungle. They were humans who had become part of the ecosystem. They thought like predators, moved like wind through leaves, and struck like natural disasters. The jungle ghosts were just the beginning. Similar units operated in every wild environment on Earth, each adapted to their specific terrain and trained to use it as a weapon. The true war for Earth was about to begin. High in the Rocky Mountains of North America, Lieutenant Colonel Jake Morrison moved through a blizzard like he was born in it. His white camouflage made him invisible against the snow, and his specialized equipment allowed him to operate in conditions that would kill most humans. Behind him, his mountain ghost unit prepared for their largest operation yet. The Coalition had established a major command base in what used to be Denver, but their supply lines ran through mountain passes that Earth's forces knew better than anyone. Morrison's team had spent 3 weeks preparing for this attack, using the harsh winter conditions as their greatest weapon. Avalanche 1, report status, Morrison whispered into his throat microphone. Charges set at Checkpoint Alpha, came the reply from Sergeant Williams, positioned 2 miles away on a steep slope above the main supply route, ready to bring down half the mountain. Whiteout 2 status. Weather control systems active, reported Corporal Zhang from her concealed position. Storm will intensify on your mark. The Coalition had no idea that Earth's forces could actually influence local weather patterns. It wasn't advanced alien technology, just decades of research into cloud seeding, atmospheric manipulation, and natural weather modification. In the mountains, where conditions were already extreme, small changes could create devastating results. Morrison watched through his scope as a massive Coalition supply convoy approached through the pass below. 12 heavy transport vehicles carried enough equipment and supplies to support their forces for months. Energy shields protected them from conventional attacks, and escort fighters circled overhead, but the aliens hadn't planned for the mountain itself to attack them. Execute Avalanche Protocol, Morrison commanded. Sergeant Williams triggered the first set of charges. Thousands of tons of snow and rock broke loose from the mountainside, roaring down toward the convoy like a white tsunami. The alien vehicles tried to accelerate, but their heavy transport ships weren't built for speed. The avalanche caught the last 3 vehicles, burying them completely under millions of tons of debris. The surviving ships continued forward, but they were heading into an even deadlier trap. Corporal Zhang activated her weather modification system. Silver iodide particles shot into the storm clouds above, triggering sudden crystallization. The snowfall increased from heavy to impossible. Within minutes, visibility dropped to 0 and winds reached hurricane force. The Coalition escort fighters couldn't operate in such conditions. They returned to base, leaving the convoy defenseless. The ground vehicles pressed on, following GPS coordinates toward what they thought was safety. But Morrison's mountain ghosts had been preparing this killing ground for weeks. They had redirected a mountain stream to create an ice field exactly where the convoy would try to take shelter. Hidden beneath the snow were cables and spike strips that would shred even armored vehicles. The lead Coalition transport hit the ice at full speed. Its anti-gravity systems couldn't find purchase on the slick surface, and the vehicle spun out of control. As it slid sideways, hidden cables caught its landing gear and flipped the massive ship onto its side. The other vehicles tried to brake, but they hit the same ice field. One by one, they lost control and crashed into rocks, trees, or each other. Energy shields were useless against the simple physics of momentum and friction. Morrison's team emerged from the storm like ice demons. They moved through the wreckage with practiced efficiency, eliminating any surviving aliens and securing the cargo. The entire operation took less than 30 minutes. Mountain leader to base, Morrison reported. Package secured. Convoy eliminated. Meanwhile, on the other side of the world, Captain Yuki Tanaka was demonstrating that urban environments could be just as deadly as wilderness when properly prepared. Her urban ghost unit operated in the ruins of old cities, areas that had been abandoned when humanity built their new settlements. The Coalition had dismissed these ruins as worthless, but they made perfect bases for guerrilla operations. Tanaka's team had spent years preparing the underground tunnel systems, creating hidden supply caches and escape routes that honeycombed the earth beneath the cities. Sir, her communications officer reported, Coalition patrol approaching Sector 7. 2 squads, heavy armor, aerial support. Tanaka studied the tactical display showing the alien forces moving through the ruined streets above her hidden command post. The coalition was getting smarter, sending larger patrols with better equipment, but they still didn't understand how Earth's defenders thought. "Initiate Labyrinth Protocol," she ordered. Her team had spent months preparing the perfect trap. They had weakened building foundations, planted shaped charges, and created false floors that would collapse under weight. The entire district was a three-dimensional maze designed to channel enemy forces into kill zones. The coalition patrol entered the ruins confidently, their sensors sweeping for threats. They found nothing because Tanaka's people were too deep underground to detect. But every step the aliens took was monitored through fiber optic cameras hidden in the rubble. When the patrol reached the intersection of 5th and Main, Tanaka triggered the first phase. Explosive charges brought down a building behind them, blocking their retreat. Simultaneously, shaped charges collapsed the street in front, cutting off their advance. The aliens were trapped in a box made of rubble, but that was just the beginning. Tanaka's urban ghosts emerged from hidden passages in the surrounding buildings. They fired from concealed positions, used the ruins as cover, and disappeared into secret tunnels before the aliens could respond. The coalition soldiers tried to take shelter in nearby buildings, but these structures had been prepared as death traps. Floors collapsed, ceilings fell, and walls toppled inward. What appeared to be solid shelter became crushing graves. The aerial support tried to help, but the narrow streets and tall buildings limited their effectiveness. Tanaka's team used shoulder-fired missiles hidden in the ruins to bring down the aircraft. The pilots never saw the attacks coming because the launch sites were concealed inside fake rubble piles. In less than an hour, an entire coalition patrol had been eliminated without a single Earth casualty. The aliens' advanced technology was useless when they couldn't see their enemies or predict the environment's behavior. Similar operations were taking place across the globe. In Australia, desert ghost units used mirages and sandstorms to confuse alien forces before striking from underground bunkers. In Africa, savanna ghosts worked with local wildlife, using trained animals as scouts and weapons. In the Arctic, ice ghosts created traps from the frozen landscape itself, using pressure ridges and ice flows to crush alien vehicles. In swamplands, marsh ghosts turned the water and mud into weapons, drowning enemy forces in bogs that appeared solid, but were actually liquid death. The coalition's casualty reports grew more desperate each day. Commander Zethrak had lost nearly 10,000 soldiers to an enemy that officially didn't exist. His superiors in the Galactic Council were beginning to ask uncomfortable questions. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're receiving new orders from High Command. They want a full assessment of Earth's actual military capabilities." Zethrak's forearms gestured in frustration. What military capabilities? The humans surrendered. Their armies disbanded. Their cities cooperate fully. Yet our forces continue to disappear, sir. High Command believes there may be hidden military units we haven't detected. If only they knew the truth. Earth's real defenders weren't hidden military units with advanced weapons. They were something far more dangerous. Humans who had learned to fight like the planet itself. They used Earth's own environment as their weapon, turning forests into armies, mountains into fortresses, and weather into artillery. The coalition had conquered 10,000 worlds, but they had never faced an enemy like this. They were fighting not just humans, but the very essence of what made Earth unique in the galaxy. Its incredible diversity of environments and the species that had learned to thrive in each one. The aliens were about to learn that on Earth, the terrain itself was alive, intelligent, and very, very angry. General Harrison sat in his underground command center, deep beneath what appeared to be a surrendered Earth military base. Above ground, coalition forces believed they controlled the facility completely. They had no idea that beneath their feet lay one of Earth's most sophisticated war rooms, connected by hidden tunnels to similar facilities across the globe. "Status report from all theaters," Harrison commanded. The responses came from every continent. Amazon ghost units report 73 enemy eliminations this week. Mountain forces have destroyed 6 supply convoys. Urban teams have cleared 4 coalition patrol bases. The numbers continued to grow. Harrison studied the holographic display showing coalition force deployments across Earth. Red markers indicated alien positions, while green showed areas controlled by Earth's hidden defenders. The aliens thought they occupied the planet, but in reality, they only controlled small pockets of urban and agricultural land. Everything else belonged to the ghosts. "Sir," reported Colonel Martinez, his intelligence chief, "we've interrogated the latest prisoners. The coalition is planning something called Operation Iron Jungle. They're going to deploy their elite forces in massive numbers to clear our wildland positions." Harrison nodded grimly. They had known this was coming. The coalition couldn't continue losing forces indefinitely without responding with overwhelming force. It was time for Phase 3 of Earth's defense plan. "Signal all Ghost commanders," Harrison ordered. "Begin Terra Awakening protocol." Across the planet, hidden transmitters sent coded signals to Earth's most secret facilities. Deep in places the coalition had never even detected, ancient bunkers came to life. These weren't recent constructions, but facilities that had been built over decades in preparation for this exact scenario. In the Amazon, Maria Santos received the activation code and smiled grimly. Terra Awakening meant they could stop holding back. For months, the jungle ghosts had been using only basic tactics and equipment, allowing the aliens to think they understood the threat, but Earth's real capabilities had been kept hidden until now. "Ghost teams, this is command," Maria transmitted on encrypted channels. "Authorization code Alpha 77. Full spectrum warfare is now authorized." The response was immediate. Hidden throughout the rainforest, automated defense systems came online. Sensor networks that had remained dormant for months began transmitting data. Weapon caches that the aliens had never detected opened their locks. What the coalition didn't know was that Earth's governments had spent 40 years preparing for alien invasion. They had studied every recorded galactic conflict, analyzed alien tactics and technology, and built their defenses accordingly. The jungle ghosts weren't just hiding in the forest. They were the tip of a technological iceberg that had been concealed beneath Earth's surface. The first sign of change came when coalition sensors began malfunctioning. Their advanced detection equipment, which had worked perfectly for months, suddenly couldn't penetrate more than a few meters into any wildland area. What they didn't realize was that Earth had activated a planet-wide stealth field. Using natural magnetic anomalies and carefully placed signal jammers, Commander Zethrak noticed the sensor blackouts immediately. "What's happening to our detection systems?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir," reported his technical officer. "All wildland areas have become completely opaque to our sensors. It's as if something is actively jamming us, but we can't detect the source." The jamming was just the beginning. Hidden beneath forests, mountains, and deserts, Earth's secret manufacturing facilities began producing weapons designed specifically to counter coalition technology. These weren't crude human firearms, but sophisticated systems reverse-engineered from captured alien equipment and improved with human innovation. In the Sahara Desert, Captain Abdul Rahman's Desert Ghost Unit received their first shipment of new equipment. The weapons looked almost alien themselves, sleek and advanced, but they bore the unmistakable mark of human engineering. They were designed to be practical, reliable, and devastating. "Field test the new plasma rifles," Rahman ordered his team. "Target practice on that coalition observation post." The coalition had thought their observation posts were safe, positioned on high ground with clear fields of vision. But Rahman's new weapons had range and accuracy that exceeded alien expectations. The energy beams cut through coalition armor like it was paper, and the power source was completely silent. The observation post vanished in a flash of superheated plasma, leaving only a crater where 12 coalition soldiers had been stationed. No explosion, no warning, just sudden death from an impossible distance. Similar scenes played out across Earth. The coalition's Iron Jungle operation launched with great fanfare, deploying their elite Void Reapers and Starguard units into Earth's wildlands. These were the coalition's most feared warriors, veterans of countless campaigns who had never known defeat. They walked into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. The 1st Void Reaper Battalion landed in the Congo rainforest, expecting to face the same primitive tactics they had been dealing with for months. Instead, they encountered an enemy that fought with weapons as advanced as their own, tactics more sophisticated than anything in their experience, and knowledge of the terrain that bordered on supernatural. Colonel Mbeki's Forest Ghost Unit had been waiting for this moment. His teams were equipped with active camouflage that made them literally invisible, weapons that could penetrate any known armor, and coordination systems that allowed them to fight as one organism spread across hundreds of square kilometers. The Void Reapers advanced in perfect formation, their energy weapons ready, their armor gleaming. They looked invincible, and by galactic standards they should have been. But they were fighting humans who had learned to become part of the forest itself. The attack came from everywhere at once. Trees that seemed normal suddenly revealed themselves as weapons platforms. The ground beneath their feet became quicksand. The air itself turned toxic as hidden dispensers released chemical agents that could penetrate any filter system. But the most terrifying moment came when the forest began to move. What the Void Reapers had thought were natural vines and branches suddenly coiled around their limbs like living things. The trees themselves seemed to reach out and grab alien soldiers, pulling them into concealed disposal chutes. The battalion's commander tried to call for aerial support, but his communications were being jammed by systems he couldn't detect. Worse, when he looked up through the canopy, he saw that the forest ceiling had somehow closed above them. What had been open sky was now a solid barrier of interwoven branches and leaves. They were trapped inside a living maze that fought back. In the mountains, the Coalition Starguard faced a different nightmare. Elite mountain troops found themselves fighting an enemy that could control the weather, reshape the terrain, and move through solid rock like it was water. Avalanches struck with impossible precision, targeting individual soldiers while leaving others untouched. The ocean presented its own horrors. Coastal ghost units had turned the seas themselves into weapons, using submarines that moved like marine life, weapons that fired from beneath the waves, and tactics that treated the ocean as a three-dimensional battlefield. By the end of the first day of Operation Iron Jungle, the Coalition had lost more forces than in any previous single operation. Their elite units, the pride of galactic military might, were being systematically destroyed by an enemy they still couldn't fully comprehend. Commander Zethrak stared at the casualty reports in disbelief. "This is impossible," he muttered. "How can a primitive world be doing this to us?" His intelligence officer, Nixara, had been analyzing the data for hours. "Sir, I don't think this world is as primitive as we believed. The level of coordination, the sophisticated weapons, the planetary defense networks, this suggests decades of preparation. Preparation for what? They had no knowledge of our coming. Sir, what if they did? What if Earth has been preparing for galactic contact much longer than we assumed?" Zethrak's mandibles clicked as he considered this possibility. If Earth had been preparing for invasion, if their surrender had been a ruse to lure Coalition forces into vulnerable positions, then everything they thought they knew about this planet was wrong. And if they were wrong about Earth's capabilities, then this war was far from over. The Coalition High Command meeting took place aboard the massive fortress ship Galactic Dominion, orbiting Earth at a safe distance. Fleet Admiral Korthax, Supreme Commander of Coalition forces, studied the holographic reports with growing alarm. In just 2 months of occupation, they had lost over 20,000 soldiers to an enemy that supposedly didn't exist. "Explain to me," Korthax growled, his voice echoing from multiple vocal chambers, "how a world that surrendered unconditionally is destroying our elite forces." The assembled commanders shifted nervously. These were leaders who had conquered entire star systems, yet none could provide a satisfactory answer. Commander Zethrak stood to address the Admiral. "Sir, we believe Earth's surrender was a strategic deception. They appear to have been preparing for galactic invasion for decades, possibly centuries." "Impossible," snapped General Vextar, a veteran crystalline warrior. "Our scouts monitored this system for 50 cycles before invasion. They had no space technology, no advanced weapons, no military coordination beyond their individual nations. Yet the evidence is undeniable," Zethrak continued. "The humans are employing weapons and tactics that rival our own technology. Their coordination spans the entire planet, and their knowledge of our equipment suggests extensive intelligence gathering." Admiral Korthax activated the central display, showing Earth surrounded by Coalition fleet positions. Red zones marked areas where their forces had been eliminated or had gone missing. The red covered nearly 70% of the planet's land surface. "What do we know about their actual capabilities?" the Admiral demanded. Intelligence Chief Sixandra, a multi-tentacled cephalon, manipulated the hologram with precise movements. "Our analysis suggests they've developed a form of environmental warfare we've never encountered. They're not just hiding in their natural environments. They've weaponized the environments themselves." The display zoomed in on various battlefields. In the Amazon, the recording showed trees that moved like living creatures, wrapping around coalition soldiers and dragging them into the earth. In the Arctic, ice formations shifted and changed to trap entire squads. In the deserts, sandstorms moved with impossible precision, striking only enemy forces while leaving nearby areas untouched. This is beyond our understanding of human technology, Sixandra concluded. Either they've achieved scientific breakthroughs that surpass our own, or they've learned to work with their planet's natural systems in ways we've never seen. Admiral Korthax was silent for several minutes, processing the implications. The coalition had built its empire on technological superiority and overwhelming force. They had never encountered a species that could match their weapons or a world that fought back as a living entity. What about the human cities? He finally asked. Our occupation of urban areas remains successful. Yes, sir, Zethrak confirmed. The humans in populated areas continue to cooperate fully. They provide supplies, information, and labor as requested. But we believe this is part of their strategy. They're sacrificing their civilization to protect their planet. The observation was more accurate than Zethrak realized. Earth's leaders had made the hardest decision in human history. They had allowed their cities to be occupied while their true defenders retreated to the Wildlands. Millions of humans lived under alien rule, maintaining the illusion of defeat while their hidden warriors prepared for the final phase of the war. Deep in the Appalachian Mountains, General Harrison received real-time intelligence from every coalition meeting through quantum communication systems the aliens hadn't detected. Earth scientists had achieved breakthroughs in several fields during their decades of preparation, including quantum entanglement communication and bioengineered enhancement of human capabilities. Phase 4 is authorized, Harrison announced to his staff. Begin Gaia Protocol. The Gaia Protocol was Earth's ultimate weapon, and it terrified even those who had created it. For 30 years, Earth's best scientists had worked to establish direct communication with the planet's ecosystem. They had developed technology that could interface with plant root networks, animal migration patterns, and even geological processes. In simple terms, they had turned Earth itself into a conscious ally. The first sign of Gaia Protocol activation appeared in orbit. Coalition ships monitoring Earth's atmosphere detected massive changes in air pressure, magnetic fields, and electromagnetic radiation. Weather patterns across the globe began shifting in ways that defied meteorological understanding. On the surface, the changes were even more dramatic. In every wildland area where coalition forces operated, the environment began to actively hunt the invaders. In the Amazon, Captain Santos watched in amazement as the trees around her seemed to communicate through underground root systems, sharing information about alien movements faster than any electronic network. This is Ghost Leader, she reported. The forest is telling us where they are before our sensors can detect them. The enhancement wasn't limited to plants. Animals throughout Earth's ecosystems began coordinating in unprecedented ways. Wolves in Canada worked with ravens to track coalition patrols. African elephants shared intelligence with local bird populations. Even insects participated, with ant colonies creating living maps of enemy positions. But the most startling development was the discovery that some humans could interface directly with these natural networks. Soldiers who had spent years living in wild environments found they could receive information directly from the ecosystem around them. Sergeant Kim Liu, operating in the Malaysian rainforest, was the first to experience full neural interface with the forest network. It's like having eyes everywhere, she reported. I can sense coalition movements through the trees themselves. The forest is showing me safe paths, warning me of dangers, even suggesting attack strategies. The coalition forces found themselves fighting an enemy that knew their every move before they made it. Ambushes struck with perfect timing. Escape routes were blocked before retreats could begin. Supply drops were intercepted by defenders who appeared to know the delivery schedules in advance. Commander Zethrak deployed his remaining forces in a desperate attempt to establish secure zones. But every position they occupied became a target for increasingly sophisticated attacks. The humans weren't just using advanced weapons anymore. They were coordinating with the planet itself. The breaking point came when coalition forces in the Sahara Desert encountered what they initially thought was a natural sandstorm. But this storm moved with purpose and intelligence, following their vehicles no matter how they tried to evade it. Inside the swirling sand, human warriors struck like desert spirits, appearing and vanishing in the chaos. When the storm finally subsided, An entire armored division had been buried beneath the dunes. The sand had moved like a living thing, flowing around human forces while engulfing alien vehicles. It was as if the desert itself had chosen sides. Similar phenomena occurred worldwide. Ocean currents changed to support human naval operations while hampering coalition ships. Mountain avalanches struck with surgical precision. Even the planet's magnetic field seemed to interfere with alien navigation systems while enhancing human equipment. "Sir," reported Zethrak's science officer, "I have a theory about what we're facing. The humans haven't just developed advanced technology. They've achieved symbiosis with their planetary ecosystem. Earth isn't just their home. It's become their ally." The concept was revolutionary and terrifying. In all of galactic history, no species had ever achieved true partnership with their world's natural systems. Most civilizations, including the coalition races, had long ago separated themselves from their planetary environments through technology and industrialization. But Earth's humans had gone in the opposite direction. Instead of conquering their world, they had learned to become part of it. And now that partnership was being turned against the invaders with devastating effect. Admiral Korthax made a decision that would echo through galactic history. For the first time in coalition military tradition, he ordered a strategic withdrawal from a conquered world. "All forces are to evacuate Earth's surface immediately," he commanded. "We will maintain orbital blockade while reassessing our approach to this planet." But as coalition ships lifted off from Earth's surface, carrying the survivors of the most humiliating defeat in galactic history, they didn't realize they were leaving behind more than just a failed conquest. They were abandoning a world that had learned to fight as one organism, and that world was now preparing to take the war to them. 6 months after the coalition's retreat from Earth's surface, Admiral Korthax stared at intelligence reports that seemed impossible. The humans weren't simply celebrating their victory or rebuilding their civilization. They were doing something that violated every principle of galactic warfare. They were preparing to attack the coalition fleet. "Show me the orbital surveillance data again," Korthax commanded. The holographic display revealed Earth's surface in stunning detail. Where once there had been separate continents with distinct ecosystems, there now appeared to be a unified network of activity. Massive structures grew from the ground like living trees, but their design clearly indicated technological purpose. "Sir," reported Fleet Intelligence Officer Zixandra, "these formations appear to be some form of organic technology. They're growing rather than being built, but they show clear signs of intelligent design." The structures were indeed growing, but they were unlike anything in the Coalition's experience. In the Amazon, towering spires of what appeared to be hardened wood and metal reached toward the sky. In the Sahara, crystal formations emerged from the sand with geometric precision. Ocean platforms made of coral and steel rose from the depths. Most disturbing of all, these structures pulsed with energy signatures that suggested they were alive. "Any idea what they're building?" Korthax asked. "Based on the energy readings and structural analysis, sir, we believe they're constructing weapons platforms. But the technology is completely foreign to us. It's as if they're growing their own spacecraft." On Earth's surface, the reality was even more extraordinary than the Coalition suspected. The Gaia Protocol had evolved beyond simple communication with the ecosystem. Earth's scientists had achieved true bioengineering fusion, creating technology that was part machine and part living organism. Dr. Sarah Chen, Earth's leading specialist in biomechanical engineering, stood in the heart of the Amazon Ascension platform, watching as vines and cables intertwined to form the final components of humanity's first living starship. The vessel was beautiful and terrifying, its hull made of hardened plant fiber that was stronger than any known metal, its power source a fusion of human technology and the planet's own geothermal energy. "Photosynthesis panels are operating at 97% efficiency," reported her assistant. "The bio-neural network is fully integrated with our computer systems. She's ready for her first flight." Dr. Chen smiled as she placed her hand on the ship's surface. She could feel it breathing, sense its awareness. This wasn't just a machine. It was a new form of life created through the partnership between human science and Earth's natural systems. "All bioships report ready for launch," came the signal from General Harrison's command center, now relocated to a massive underground facility that stretched beneath 3 continents. "Operation Terra Rising is authorized." Across Earth, 12 similar vessels began their ascent. Each was unique, adapted to the ecosystem that had birthed it. The Pacific ship was designed like a massive coral reef, its surface covered with bioluminescent panels that could camouflage it as a natural space object. The Arctic vessel resembled a living iceberg, its crystalline structure capable of channeling solar energy into devastating beam weapons. The Coalition fleet detected the launches immediately, but their sensors couldn't classify what they were seeing. The objects appeared biological, yet they moved with the precision of advanced spacecraft. They emitted energy signatures unlike any known technology, and their materials seemed to shift and change as they moved through space. "Sir, 12 unknown objects have achieved orbit," reported the Coalition's tactical officer. "They're moving in formation toward our fleet position." Admiral Korthax studied the approaching vessels with growing unease. "What do our weapons scanners tell us?" "That's the problem, sir. Our scanners can't penetrate their hull structure. It's as if they're made of living tissue that's constantly adapting to our sensor frequencies." The first bioship to reach the Coalition fleet was the Amazonian vessel Terra Madre, commanded by Captain Santos, who had transitioned from jungle warfare to space command. As she approached the massive Coalition dreadnought Stellar Dominion, she marveled at how naturally the bioship responded to her thoughts. The ship's bio-neural network had interfaced directly with her nervous system, allowing her to control the vessel as easily as moving her own body. She could feel the ship's hull adapting to space conditions, its living armor strengthening against potential attacks. "Terra Madre to all bioships," Santos transmitted. "Remember, these vessels are our partners, not just our tools. Trust the symbiosis." The Coalition opened fire first, their energy weapons striking the approaching bioships with enough power to vaporize asteroids. But the beams simply disappeared into the living hulls, absorbed and converted into energy that made the ship stronger. "Our weapons are having no effect," reported the Coalition weapons officer. "If anything, the targets appear to be gaining power from our attacks." That was exactly what was happening. The bioships had been designed to feed on energy, converting any attack into fuel for their own systems. The more the Coalition shot at them, the more powerful they became. The human counterattack was unlike anything in galactic military history. Instead of traditional weapons, the bioships released clouds of what appeared to be spores. These microscopic organisms spread through space and began attaching to Coalition vessels. "Sir, our hull integrity is being compromised," reported damage control aboard the Stellar Dominion. "Something is eating through our armor plating." The spores were actually biomechanical nanobots designed to interface with alien technology. Once attached, they began the process of conversion, turning Coalition ships into hybrid biomechanical vessels under human control. But the true horror for the Coalition came when they realized the process was spreading from ship to ship. The nanobots were self-replicating, using the materials from enemy vessels to create more of themselves. Within hours, the infection had spread to half the Coalition fleet. "This is impossible," Admiral Korthax muttered as he watched his mighty war fleet being transformed before his eyes. "How can organic technology be more advanced than our finest engineering?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Dr. Chen, now aboard the Terra Madre, opened a communication channel to the Coalition flagship. "Admiral Korthax," she said, her image appearing on his command screen. "I am Dr. Sarah Chen, representing the Earth Biofleet. We offer you the opportunity to surrender and join our symbiotic network." "Join your what?" Korthax demanded. "Your species has spent millennia fighting against the natural order of the universe," Dr. Chen explained. "You've tried to dominate planets, enslaved ecosystems, and treated the galaxy as a resource to be consumed. We offer a different path: cooperation instead of conquest, symbiosis instead of slavery." On the screen behind Dr. Chen, Korthax could see the bridge of the Terra Madre. What should have been metal and electronics was instead a living chamber of wood and vine, with human crew members connected to the ship's bio-neural network through organic interfaces. "We don't wish to destroy your fleet," Dr. Chen continued. "We want to offer your people the chance to experience true partnership with living technology. Your ships are already being converted. Your crews can either fight the process and die or embrace it and discover capabilities you never imagined." Across the Coalition fleet, the transformation continued. Ships that had been sterile metal constructs began developing organic components. Control systems evolved into neural networks. Weapon arrays transformed into defensive organs capable of both protection and healing. The crew members faced a choice: resist the changes and be eliminated by their own ship's immune systems, or accept the biomechanical interface and become part of something greater than themselves. On the Stellar Dominion, Admiral Korthax felt his ship changing around him. The walls pulsed with a rhythm like a heartbeat. The air tasted different, cleaner somehow. His command chair had developed organic padding that seemed to anticipate his movements. "Sir," his tactical officer reported, his voice filled with wonder. "I'm receiving data directly from the ship's sensors. I can feel what the ship feels, see what it sees. It's extraordinary." Korthax realized he faced the same choice as his crew. He could fight against this transformation and die defending principles that had brought only conquest and destruction, or he could embrace a new way of existence that promised cooperation and growth. For the first time in his military career, the Admiral chose adaptation over aggression. As the bioconversion spread through the Coalition fleet, Earth's bioships took their positions around the transformed vessels. What had begun as an invasion fleet was becoming something unprecedented in galactic history. A symbiotic armada where organic and technological, human and alien, worked together as one living entity. The war for Earth was over, but the transformation of the galaxy had just begun. 2 years after the Coalition fleet's transformation, the galaxy faced a new reality. The sterile corridors of the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime buzzed with heated debate as representatives from thousands of species struggled to comprehend what Earth had accomplished. "The humans have created an abomination," declared Senator Krickstahl, his reptilian features twisted with disgust. "They've corrupted one of our most powerful fleets with their organic contamination." "You call it contamination," responded Admiral Korthax, who now served as Earth's primary ambassador to the galactic community. "I call it evolution." The Admiral looked different than he had before the bioconversion. His natural Krillian armor had merged with organic components that enhanced his strength and speed. His forearms now ended in hands that could interface directly with both biological and technological systems. Most striking of all, his eyes held a depth of understanding that came from being connected to Earth's planetary consciousness. "Admiral, you were once our finest military commander," Senator Vextar said sadly. "Look what they've done to you." "Look what I've become," Korthax corrected. "I can feel the pulse of a living ship, communicate with ecosystems across light years, and understand the universe in ways your sterile technology never allowed." "The humans didn't corrupt me. They liberated me." The council chambers erupted in argument. Some species saw Earth's biotechnology as a threat that needed to be eliminated. Others were intrigued by the possibilities of symbiotic evolution. A growing number were quietly sending diplomatic missions to Earth, curious about this new form of existence. On Earth, humanity was adapting to their role as the galaxy's first truly symbiotic civilization. The planet itself had become more than a home. It was a partner in their expansion into space. Bioships grown from Earth's ecosystems carried human crews to distant worlds. Not as conquerors, but as teachers and healers. Maria Santos, now captain of the bioship Amazon's Heart, stood on the bridge of her vessel as it approached Kepler Form 42b, a dying world where the native Zephyrian species had poisoned their own ecosystem through centuries of industrial abuse. The planet's surface was scarred with toxic waste, its oceans acidified, its atmosphere barely breathable. "Biosensors are detecting massive ecological damage," reported her science officer, Dr. Petrov, whose neural interface with the ship allowed him to feel the planet's pain as a physical sensation. "The Zephyrians have maybe 50 years before their world becomes completely uninhabitable." "Then we arrive just in time," Santos replied. She placed her hand on the ship's control interface, feeling the vessel's eagerness to help. The Amazon's Heart wasn't just a ship. It was a living extension of Earth's rainforest, carrying within its biostructure the seeds and knowledge needed to restore damaged worlds. The Zephyrian government had initially been suspicious of Earth's offer to help. They had heard stories of the Coalition fleet's conversion and feared human biotechnology would somehow enslave their people. But desperation had finally overcome fear. "Zephyrian control, this is Captain Santos of the Earth bioship Amazon's Heart," she transmitted. "We're prepared to begin ecological restoration operations. Permission to establish biolink with your planetary systems." The response came from Prime Minister Velthar, her voice heavy with the exhaustion of a leader watching her world die. "Permission granted, Captain Santos." Our world is in your hands. What happened next would become known throughout the galaxy as the Kepler miracle. The Amazon's heart descended into the planet's toxic atmosphere, its living hull adapting to filter out poisonous gases. As the ship landed, it began to root itself into the contaminated soil, literally becoming part of the landscape. From the ship's biostructure, millions of specially designed organisms spread across the planet's surface. These weren't Earth species, but new life forms created through the partnership between human science and Earth's biological creativity. They were designed specifically to thrive on Kepler 442b, while gradually transforming the toxic environment into something livable. The process was visible from orbit. Green spread from the landing site like ripples in a pond, as bioremediation organisms converted poison into nutrients, cleared toxic waste, and began rebuilding the planet's ecosystem. Within months, areas that had been dead for centuries were blooming with new life. But the most remarkable change was in the Zephyrians themselves. As they worked alongside human bioengineers, many chose to accept biological interfaces that allowed them to communicate directly with the restoration organisms. They learned to feel their world's healing as their own recovery. News of Kepler 442b's transformation spread throughout the galaxy faster than any communication system. Suddenly, Earth wasn't seen as a threat to be contained, but as a miracle to be understood. Delegations from dying worlds arrived daily, begging for help with their own ecological disasters. The coalition government found itself increasingly isolated as more species chose cooperation with Earth over submission to galactic authority. The humans had done something unprecedented. They had offered power sharing instead of conquest, healing instead of exploitation, symbiosis instead of slavery. In the Galactic Council, the debate reached a critical point when the Zephyrian delegation announced their formal withdrawal from the coalition to join Earth's growing symbiotic alliance. The humans saved our world, declared Ambassador Tikvar, a Zephyrian whose own bio-enhanced features showed the influence of Earth's technology. They asked for nothing in return except the opportunity to help other species achieve the same harmony with their environments. They're building an empire based on biological contamination, Senator Krickstahl argued. Soon, every species in the galaxy will be dependent on their organic technology. Better to depend on life than to serve death, Admiral Korthax responded. The coalition built its power through conquest and fear. Earth offers partnership and growth. Which future do you choose for your children? The question resonated throughout the chamber. For millennia, the coalition had maintained order through military might and technological superiority. They had created a galaxy where species competed for resources, dominated weaker civilizations, and treated worlds as property to be exploited. Earth had demonstrated an alternative, a civilization that grew stronger by helping others, that expanded through cooperation rather than conquest, and that treated planets as partners rather than possessions. The vote that followed would reshape galactic civilization. By a narrow margin, the Galactic Council chose to dissolve the coalition and establish the Symbiotic Commonwealth, with Earth as a founding member rather than a conquered territory. Not every species accepted this new order peacefully. The hegemony of Rigel, the dominion of Vega, and several other militant civilizations declared war on what they called the Organic Plague, but their fleets discovered that fighting bioships was like trying to battle the galaxy's own immune system. Earth's vessels didn't simply defend themselves. They converted attackers into allies. Weapons became healing tools. Warships transformed into exploration vessels. Soldiers evolved into gardeners of space. General Harrison, now Earth's Minister of Galactic Relations, stood in his office overlooking the Amazon, watching as delegations from 100 worlds worked together to design new bioships for their specific environments. The jungle around his building pulsed with activity as Earth's ecosystem processed data from thousands of different worlds, designing solutions for each unique challenge. Incoming transmission from the Andromeda contact team, his aide announced. Harrison smiled. Earth's bioships had recently made contact with the Andromeda galaxy, discovering that they weren't the only civilization to achieve symbiosis with their environment. An entire galaxy of biocivilizations waited to share knowledge and growth. Tell them we'll meet them at the galactic barrier next week, Harrison replied. and prepare the Terra Gaia for intergalactic flight. It's time to see how large this universe really is. As the sun set over the Amazon, its light reflected off the bioships growing in Earth's orbital gardens, each one destined to carry life and hope to distant worlds. The planet that had once faced conquest had become the seed of a new kind of civilization, one that proved the universe was large enough for every species to thrive. In the depths of the rainforest where it all began, Maria Santos walked among trees that whispered with voices from across the galaxy. The jungle that had hidden Earth's defenders now carried the dreams of countless worlds, growing solutions to problems that had seemed impossible to solve. The war had ended not with victory or defeat, but with transformation. And in the vast garden of space, new forms of life were blooming among the stars.